Hi, it's Sean. It's a 3-month vacation, 5:55 a.m. What's today's episode? It's about how much detail should you put in a story. Cooking has never been a problem for me, and I love all the steps involved in the process. However, this morning, as I turned on the induction, I started sneezing once, twice, 6 times, 12 times in a row. Even while I was sneezing, I started to grind some foxtail millets, add some water, and make a dosa mixture. Because of all of that incessant sneezing, I added too much water to the mixture and it was all runny. To solve this problem, I thinly sliced a potato, I bulked up the mixture, but this morning called for a bit more than usual. I also had to make a coriander chutney sandwich for Renuka because she was headed out, as well as a masala egg with some pepper and salt for my mother-in-law. Then the sneezing started again. I was so disoriented that I could not find the frying pan. Once I did, I started cracking the eggs, only to have some of the shell fall into the mixture. Whether you liked it or not, the words that you just heard, they form the basis of a story. So stories need a sequence, and the process of making breakfast is certainly a sequence. A story also needs to have some level of drama, and there is more than enough drama happening in the above storyline. But is it too much drama? And the answer is yes, because what we've managed to do is introduce a whole lot of clutter. In this story, we can identify 3 points of clutter right away. First, event clutter. Second, terminology clutter. And third, fact clutter. Event clutter is the amount of detail in the event itself. All of that sneezing, grinding, fixing the batter, making a sandwich, remembering the masala egg, losing the pan, cracking eggs, finding shell in the mixture. 5 stories are running all at once. But even when a writer stays focused on a single story, they will always add, well, almost always add, terminology. That takes us to our second part, right? Which is terminology clutter. Now, this kind of clutter is often hidden because the terms sound important. Terms like foxtail millet, masala egg, dosa, coriander chutney, they all sound descriptive, but they're irrelevant to your story. The reader has to wonder, should I remember this? Why is the term foxtail important? What is the relevance of a masala egg? This is where a lot of detail slips in, and it's completely unnecessary. When you use the word foxtail millet, the reader automatically assumes that there is some relevance to that specific term. When you use the word masala egg, maybe something is coming up in the story that precisely requires the word masala. You are asking the reader to hold certain pieces of information as though they are important, but they are completely worthless. We had such a short story, just making breakfast, and there are so many levels of clutter. We started with event clutter, then we moved on to terminology, but the facts really are the worst offender of all. Fact clutter is when we simply add information that carries no weight. We tell people that it took us 39 minutes to reach the destination. The name of the restaurant was Gianni's. The leaves on the tree were purplish green. That sounds very important and very interesting when you're writing something, but you would almost never catch yourself speaking to someone in this manner. You wouldn't say, on the 15th of November 1995, we took the M35 to Gianni's restaurant. And you know it takes exactly 39 minutes from our house via the highway. Along the way, the road is festooned with purplish green trees because it's late in the year, it's almost winter. You wouldn't do that. You'd get right to the point without all the frou-frou. People often say, I don't know why my stories are boring. And they are boring because of all of this clutter. Event clutter, terminology, and loads of facts. We really don't need to know the color of the person's hair, their eyes, how the wind was blowing on that particular day, unless it's relevant to the story. If it's not relevant to the story, it is just clutter. And even if you remove all the event and terminology, get rid of the facts that don't matter. I will listen to some of the podcasts, some of my favorite podcasts, or read some of the books, and they keep talking about the striped t shirt that somebody was wearing, the jeans that looked a little muddy. Why is it important? Does the mud really play a part in the rest of the story? And it doesn't. People have got used to all of this, which we read in fiction. When you're reading a storybook, yes, you need to know the girl had a little red dress and the boy was jumping around with his black hair, but you don't need it with your articles. And when you remove this unnecessary clutter, then you have more space to put the information in your article, because that's the reason why people are reading your article. The story is the lead in, it's what gets the reader to come in and to continue to read. But then you have to give the how to or the why in your article. And when you have all of this clutter, suddenly that story goes from about 150 words to 200, 300 words, most of which are completely pointless. I'd say that most stories could be told very well in about 150 to 200 words. Having that kind of confidence, that competence, makes you a considerate writer. It means that you're not just chucking stuff at the reader just because you can. It also makes sure that you get your point across without dawdling along. But how do you remove that clutter? Here is a two-step method. The first is to make sure that you never write a story in paragraphs. Always do it in outline form. Always make sure that you write the story in bullet points. And once again, the bullet points can't go on for 2 or 3 sentences. 10 to 12 words long, that's it. So you have 10 to 12 words, first bullet. 10 to 12 words, second bullet. That's it. If your outline sentences are very long, it means that you're already introducing multiple thoughts. The outline itself, those bullets, should not go on forever. And if it does, then your story has too much information. Once you have a tight outline, all of those bullets, the next step is to do no editing at all. You write the bullets and you walk away from your outline. Keep an hour or more before you come back, and then if you have more leeway of time, look at the very same outline the next day. This gap is crucial because you are very invested in the story when you first write it. But when you return, you're looking for 3 specific things. Are there events in here that belong to a different story? Are there terms that the writer has no reason to remember? And have you just included facts that have no weight and create clutter? Well, these are the 3 questions that you need to have on a little post-it on your desk when you're writing a story. And if the answer to any of them is yes, well, that's your clutter. And it's time to do some chopping. And when you do enough chopping, we can make an egg masala. And probably some other Indian dishes as well. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. Let's find out what's happening in psychotactics land. The first thing that's happening is that we're headed to Hong Kong and Taiwan in September. So there are going to be some photography workshops and some meetups. And if you are in that area or joining maybe Thailand or someplace close enough, well, come to visit us and we'll have a good time. The second thing is, if you haven't read Suddenly Talented, then go to psychotactics.com and look for Suddenly Talented, because that book will change the way you look at the rest of your life. Most people think that they have a specific talent. They think, oh, we have to practice. Oh, we need hard work. All of this is true in the minds of your parents and the teachers, and they drummed it enough in you so that you started believing it. There's no problem in believing it, but here is a counterpoint. It's in Suddenly Talented. So check out Suddenly Talented. And like the many people who have learned to write, draw, dance, cook, etc., I think you'll find it just as interesting. I'll say bye for now, and we'll see you in 5000 BC. Bye-bye.